So this car was brought to me to diagnose it, and the customer complaint was the check engine light is on and the fan is not working. And before I will do anything, I have to diagnose and see. Well, the problem is we can start the vehicle, although we are able to start it and the vehicle is running, but it says it's having a drivability issue. So what I'll do is I'll use the scan to, I won't use the OBD side, but I'll use the factory tool side to diagnose it so that I can do active test on the fan control unit and see if the fan is working, if there is connection, or maybe because the temperature is not high enough, that's why the fan is not kicking in. So we'll do that check also and see why the fan is not kicking in. So let me go to diagnose, and the only fault on it, or the only light on it is the check engine light. So I wouldn't scan all the system, I'll go into the engine management straight, then I'll go to diagnose and see the fault code that has been stored in the engine management. So these are the fault code: intake valve control low circuit. So it could be that the intake valve control, most of the low circuit means there is a power issue or something. And also engine coolant temperature sensor high, that means the engine coolant temperature sensor was disconnected, and the customer told me that they did that. So now the main fault I have to fix is the intake valve control solenoid low and the air fuel ratio pressure sensor circuit high, and the last but not the least is the sensor reference voltage D. So with this one, let me check the fan as the customer complained about the fan. So I'll go to active test and shut the vehicle down so that we can hear the fan. So start, and you can hear the fan working. So let me check the low side. And quietly you can hear the low side also working. So what I'll do now is, I know my fan is working. Then let me check the intake, which is this one, and see if it will be clicking. It is not clicking. Let me check if the exhaust will be clicking. So if you can hear the clicking sound. So now I've stopped it. That means I'm having an intake solenoid intake problem. That means my valve is not working. But first of all, I have to check if power is going to that sensor. So I'll do that check first. Then I'll try and see the fuel pressure also. But the car doesn't have any issue with difficult starting. Just starting, starts to run. So let me go and check my live data on the fuel pressure sensor and see what values that I'll be getting. So fuel, so this is my fuel pressure. Let me convert it to PSI, and let me convert this one also to PSI. So you can see 5 volts signal for a fuel pressure sensor. So let me turn it off and turn it back on quickly and see if it will drop quickly. And there's no drop. So I don't know if maybe this is a default thing. So what I'll do is I'll do more research on that fault coding to see what I can do about it. Okay, so I'll do the research and find out what I can do about it. Thank you for watching. So after a while, I tried to check all the voltage on the vehicle so that I could get any, like if there's any issue with any of the voltage. And with my understanding on how sensors work, you see the fuel tank pressure sensor is around 2.5, and because of how sensors work, and you can see the throttle position sensor, so none of them is at 5 volts, and even the accelerator position sensor. So the only 5 volt that I should get should be the voltage sensor voltage reference, and I'm getting the sensor voltage reference here, there, and here also. And you can see the sensor voltage reference for is 10 volts, and you can see on the signal voltage for fuel pressure sensor is 5 volts, as the vehicle also is reporting about fuel pressure sensor. So what I'll do now is I'll attack the fuel pump pressure sensor first and know where it's getting its 5 volts from, because I don't know why it should be 5 volts, because it should be below 5 volts, because if it's a signal voltage it should be below 5 volts. So if it is above 5 volts, then that means there is an issue with it, and the issue will be from the sensor voltage reference, the one which is supplying voltage to it. So I will check it and find out the actual problem and continue the diagnosis. So the engine is taking, the manifold is taken out. So there is the pressure sensor, and there is the wiring on it. So 1, 2, 3. This is ground, this is signal wire, and this is voltage. This is the voltage. So now what I need to measure is the voltage in the red wire, which is supposed to be 5 volts. So if it is more than 5 volts, then that means there is a problem with the circuit. And you can see on my multimeter it is measuring the battery voltage, which is supposed not to happen that way. It's supposed to be 5 volts signal. And it can also turn on a test light. It can turn on a test light. So which means there is a problem. That means that there is a problem in the circuit, which I have to find for. Turns on the test light. You can see the 12 volt. The moment I touch with the test light, it turns it on. Now what I'll do is I have to start checking from the back of this wire, which is the brown wire. So I have to disconnect it at this point and check. So after several hours and time of diagnosing, which my test came to the side, which is telling me this connector E11 for my wiring diagram. This is connector E11. So what I'll do now is I'll fix everything and disconnect this yellow wire that they've connected here. I'll disconnect this yellow wire that they've connected here. I'll disconnect it so that, because when I test for it, I think I'll disconnect this yellow wire and try it again and see if the problem will be fixed. So now You can see my multimeter is measuring 12 volts. So we'll go back and communicate with the device. The key is on, so my multimeter is measuring 12 volts, and go back to reference voltage and disconnect the wire and search for the full pressure sensor. So the full pressure sensor is measuring 5 volts, and the full tank pressure sensor is measuring. So we'll do only show and show this. So what I'll do now is, this is the yellow wire that they've connected to it, and it's a white wire and I don't know. So this is connector E11. So what I'll do now is I'll disconnect it and see if I'll disconnect it. I'm sure it is this that's causing the problem, and I don't know why they tap that wire at that side. I didn't know why. The car was towed to my shop. So what I'll do now is I'll disconnect it. Let me cut it off. And the moment I cut it off, you see now the 5 volt reference is changing, and now it is at 5 volt. So it's because they joined this wire in the fuse bay. That's what caused the problem, and I don't know why they joined it, and I really can't tell. So what I'll do is I'll disconnect it and tape it, and now my 5 volt reference is back. So all I need to do is plug in the source, plug in the sensor back, and everything will be working. So let me plug in the sensor, and you can see the fuel pressure temperature hasn't changed because the sensor is not, it's still plugged in. So now I'll plug in the sensor and hopefully the problem is fixed. So I'll plug in this socket, I'll plug it in, and now you can see my fuel pressure sensor has changed to 0.6, which is the actual fuel pressure measurement. So now the problem is fixed, and this work sometimes you need grace. And now my problem is fixed, so I'll tape everything and I'll arrange everything and start the vehicle. And now let me go and check. Now you can see all the reference voltage are 5 volts and my fuel pressure sensor has changed. So let me go back and check the fault code, and they will be in history mode. So you can see these two fault codes are in history mode: sensor reference D and fuel rate pressure sensor output circuit. So we'll clear it, and that's the fix. My problem is fixed. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more video. So I'll start the vehicle. Maybe tomorrow I'll let my mechanic fix everything and start the vehicle, or maybe I'll just do it now, tape everything and wrap everything up and do it now. So after fixing everything, now I'll check the live data of the fuel pressure sensor, fuel rate pressure sensor, and see fuel rate pressure sensor. So that's this. And this is the actual fuel pressure sensor, which I'll convert into. So the pressure that is showing now is the low fuel pressure sensor pressure. That's what is showing. But the moment I start the vehicle, hey, you can see there is no check engine light on the vehicle, and let me go to full. There's no check engine light on the, and you can see the high power pressure sensor. Select. So now that means it is working. So thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more videos. That means the problem is fixed and there is no check engine light on the vehicle anymore. Go to troubleshoot, and cylinder 4 misfiring detected. Okay, so I'll check the misfiring status. Why cylinder 4 is misfiring. Turn it off, turn it on. And read the fault code again and see the ones that will come, and there is no fault code again coming up. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more videos.